Welcome to the Religiously Offensive Podcast.
Okay. All right, here we go.
Hello, governor.
How we all doing?
Well, me and Justin have to share this side of the table.
I'm pretty
You guys get your
pumped.
own.
Great. It's been a productive day.
Reading them weep.
I want to sit right there. They can see the back of my head.
Okay. Someday we'll
Do
change
it now.
this up.
Do it now.
Chinese fire drill.
Yeah, I mean, Luke and I are bearing the burden of having a whole side to ourselves. We have to have the presence that fills this
That's
side
right.
of the table.
That's right.
You guys getting your good sides?
I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't know what
We'll
my
leave
good
that up
side
to,
is. I don't think I have a good side.
Just a couple of bad
They're
ones.
both bad.
Couple bad.
So there are a couple of quizzes I found online. This is fun. I randomly came across them. They're like topical quizzes, and then so I looked at the religion ones, which would be funny to go through some of these. Sorry, guys. My son's in the other room talking
They
trash.
probably didn't even hear him. They just heard you say Lincoln stop.
All right, that's fine. If that's the case, then we'll start now. So these quizzes, this one is when the saints go marching in. 10 questions, or 10 question religion multiple choice quiz. All right. So he abandoned a life of luxury to live in austerity and devote his life to Christ. Who was the founder of the Franciscan order and patron saint of animals and ecology? All right. These are hard.
Wait, we're
Was
supposed
there
to
a
guess which
question in
saint
there?
that is?
Can we not do that one?
Yeah, that's-
I'm going to do a different quiz.
That's tough.
Oh, we were supposed to just know which saint that was.
Oh, here we go.
Saint
Bible
Patty's
fathers, and we don't know like the one like the answers to each of these
Are we
as
doing
we
it
go.
Jeopardy
It's just like you
style?
have to do 10 questions and then it gives you the answers. So I don't know. This is maybe I should have thought of this.
Okay, great.
Okay, my name is Methuselah, and my father was a devout man who walked with God, and the end was translated to heaven. Do you know the name of my
Enoch.
righteous? Okay, that's an option. I'm so-called Gershom. God spoke face to face to other fathers of the Bible, and not only did he do this to my father, he spoke to him as a friend. Do you know the name of my privileged dad?
Moses.
Yeah, that was my guess.
Talk to
My name is Phineas. My father was
Ferb.
Yep. Oh, that's it. It's right there.
Just reflex.
My father was a faithful high priest, but he did not correct my brother and me for our wrongdoing, so we were disobedient to God and to him. Do you know the name of our dad and who allowed us to do as we pleased? The options are Eli, Annas, Nathan, Zacharias.
You sure you pronounced that correctly?
Annas. It's Annnas.
Anas.
I got
Sorry about
nothing
that.
there.
Huh.
High school taught me if you don't know the answer,
Phineas.
just pick C.
Phineas
Okay.
was the
You think,
name of the
it's, you
son?
think it's Nathan? See, Nathan's
No.
I
Nah, 'cause
don't
the
think
prophet
it's that.
Nathan,
Eli?
he did it right. Eli also
Eli
did it
sounds
right.
sketchy.
I'm
Was
thinking
it-
it's that
Eli
the last
had-
one.
had the-
Samuel. Eli and Samuel. Eli taught Samuel like how to hear from God.
Yeah, so
Right.
he had, okay, my brother and me for our wrongdoing, so we were disobedient to God and to him. He did not correct my brother and me. Didn't Eli have the two sons, though?
I don't remember.
Remember?
I think
Because
you're right.
Hannah brought Samuel.
Samuel
to,
was not Eli's son.
right.
Right.
To the temple. Yeah,
I
we
think
could
you
go
might
with
be
Eli.
right. I think it might be Eli.
You try it.
All right. I'm called
we don't.
Archelaus.
We don't find out till the end.
Yeah, sorry. Anticlimactic. I'm called Archelaus, Archelaus. My father was a powerful king, but the birth of an infant whom he feared caused him to be responsible for the massacre of the innocents.
Yes,
You
yes.
know the name of my father. What? Who?
Should have been Herod, right?
Yeah, Herod is an option.
Herod.
The Bible does not mention anything about
Justin
this
says
man
Herod,
being
he
a
says
family
Herod,
man,
so-
but he must have had a good influence on his children, who are named in Numbers 26:59, since they all grew up to be servants of the Lord. Do you know the name of this man whose children made him proud?
Jacob?
you start that over? Just read the whole thing.
Okay, the Bible's not mentioning anything about this man being a family man, but must have been a good influence on his children, who were named in Numbers 26:59. Since they all grew up to be servants of the Lord, you know the name of this man whose children made him proud: Jesse, Amram, Hosea, or Nimrod.
Wow. That's a tough one.
Nimrod is
might
a real
be.
Bible person.
I love that.
I think it's Jesse.
That was
Jesse
David's
McCartney?
dad, right?
They
David's
all
father
grew
was
up to be
Jesse?
servants of the Lord.
I mean, he did have a lot of siblings.
Jesse was the one with 12 kids, right?
Well, Jesse wasn't
He's
that
the one
David's
that
dad?
had. I thought that was
He had all the other.
you know the guy
siblings?
his brothers threw him in the thing.
Yeah, but that was Joseph.
Joseph.
Right, but wasn't his dad? What was his dad? Was it Jesse?
It wasn't Nimrod.
No, it wasn't Jesse. Because Joseph.
That would stick out.
That's a
Yeah,
tough
maybe it
name
wasn't.
right there.
Okay,
I thought it was the dad was Jacob.
let's go with Jesse.
Jacob's ladder.
I'll just try it.
Oh, okay.
Let's try it. I'm called Rufus, and I'm proud to say that my dad helped Jesus carry his cross to Calvary.
Oh,
You know the name of my privileged father. Let's say privileged. Like what's Simeon, Simon, Saul, John.
John.
Is it John?
I think it's the only book where there's someone carries the cross.
He
I'm
helped
going
him.
John.
He helped him carry the cross.
It's my guess.
Simeon, Simon, Saul. It wasn't Saul. Simeon.
Simeon and Simon are two separate options.
They are.
Simeon.
I feel like it's
sibilance.
one of those. I don't remember. Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. The guy. I think it was. I thought it was a Simon. I don't know. We'll
Okay.
see at the end.
Our father was a man who loved wealth. He married two of us sisters off to one man in exchange for. He got louder since we started this. Okay. Our father was a man who loved wealth. He married the two of us sisters off to one man in exchange for work and financial gain. Do you know the name of our greedy father? Ishmael, Terah, Laban, Bethuel.
Ishmael's the only name I recognize.
We go with that. My father had the honor of being called a friend of God and the father of nations. Do you know the name of my honored dad?
Abraham.
Isaac, Boaz, Abraham. My name's Belshazzar. My father was a very boastful king, and God humbled him in becoming an animal until he acknowledged that God was the Most High and not him.
Nebuchadnezzar.
Do you know any? Yeah. My father became well known because of me. I was never called by my name alone, but was referred to as blank, the son of blank. Do you know the name of my dad?
Is that just a? Is there options?
Well, it doesn't give you the son's name. It's just the son of. So I was never called by name, but alone was referred to as something, the son of something. There's only 3 dashes, and there's two that have 3. This is how I do tests.
That's for sure how I do
cross-elimination.
tests,
None, N-U-N, or Dan, D-A-N. Son of Nun, son of Dan, son of son of Obed. Numbers 14:30.
I'm going-
Sounds like some
I'm
tribes
going-
of Israel stuff.
I'm going none.
You think it's none?
Oh, yeah. why not?
Yeah. Roll the
right.
dice. Here we go.
Let's see what happens
See if we
here.
get a passing grade.
Enoch was right. Moses was right.
2 for 2.
Eli was right.
3 for 3.
Nice.
Herod was right.
4 for 4.
Jesse was wrong. It was
4 for 5.
Amram. John was wrong. It was Simon.
Dang it. I felt good about
Ishmael
that.
was wrong. It was Laban.
Laban.
Abraham was correct. Honor being called friend of God and father of nations. Nebuchadnezzar was right. None was right.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Redemption.
Look at us.
Pretty solid.
That's 8.
We scored. Said 7.
7.
Yeah, it was
So
we got
happy for
3
you
in the
guys.
middle wrong.
C's get degrees, baby.
I love that
Facts.
saying.
Let's go.
Yeah, we'll do one more quick one because I kind of like that. It was fun.
That's fun. Challenge.
This is 10 average questions about women in the Bible. I don't know
Okay.
who wrote the terminology and phrasing for this
Average
website.
isn't difficulty because.
It's like this is an average question someone would ask.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
Which woman was the Jewish queen of Persia? Jezebel, Priscilla, Deborah, Esther.
Jewish queen of Persia. Oh, Esther.
Thank you. Which woman did Peter raise from the dead? Joppa, Lydia, Dorcas, Priscilla. These names are killing me.
Just want it to be Dorcas.
I do too. You think Dorcas is
Priscilla.
friends with Nimrod?
Probably.
Second
There's got to be a relation. Yeah.
Something
What are the 4 again?
unpredictable. Joppa, Lydia, Dorcas, Priscilla. Women did Peter raise from the dead? Was Lydia dead at one point?
I'd like that guess, but I don't know.
Well, I'll go with that guess. This woman is barren, but when God answered prayer for a child, she dedicated her newborn son's life to the Lord's work. Who is she?
Oh,
Sarah.
it's the one with the H.
Hannah?
Yeah. That's
That's
Samuel.
true. Samuel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking of
Yeah,
Isaac.
so was I. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Which woman committed adultery with David, but a few years later gave birth to Solomon, the wisest
Bathsheba.
king in the Bible? Yeah, that's right.
Such a ridiculous name.
Had her husband killed too.
Because then, and doesn't the story go? He saw her bathing on the roof.
Yeah. In a
Bathsheba.
Bathsheba.
It was convenient, isn't it?
Hey, names have power.
Although maybe
baby.
maybe they just simpler times.
God gave her that. Yeah, yeah, maybe he renamed her because of that.
Bathsheba.
Who names their wife Bathsheba? She was an 80-year-old woman who saw baby Jesus when he was brought to the temple for his circumcision. Hadassah, Bernice, Jerusha, and Anna.
I don't know that.
This is literally just a guess.
I have no idea.
Bernice sounds like an 84-year-old woman name.
Yeah.
Bernice. I don't think I've ever
I
met
just don't know if
Bernice.
that's a Bible. Like feels like a Bible name.
I'd need to
Whatever.
be a Bernice. That's great.
Which woman was a prostitute who married Hosea, the Old Testament prophet? Jerusalem, Gomer, Hephzibah. I think it's a Gomer, the prostitute. Remember? She was a prostitute.
Roll with that.
Yeah.
What was it? Who are the other ones?
Which woman was a prostitute who married Hosea? I think it was Gomer.
What are the other names?
Hephzibah, Vashti, and Drusilla.
Yeah, Gomer.
Yeah, Gomer was. She kept like
For sure.
going out and
She kept
prostituting. He kept trying to get her
bring-
back.
Like
Oh,
buy
yeah.
her back.
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
he would
yeah,
bring her
yeah.
back to, yeah. He just
Tough game.
Which woman was a gentle?
man.
Was a Gentile and great grandmother of King David, placing her in the genealogy of Jesus Christ. Tamar, Ruth, Rahab, Naomi.
Ruth is definitely in the lineage.
Great grandmother of King David was a Gentile.
Mom, right? Female.
Yeah,
These are all women.
I think I'm going. What? Say them again, real quick. The names.
Tamar, Ruth, Rahab, Naomi. The easiest names
'Cause
to pronounce
Rahab-
in this whole thing so far.
Rahab was the prostitute that the spies stayed in their house. It's not her.
right.
I
So
think
many
it's Ruth
prostitutes back
because
back
Ruth
then.
Ruth is part of the line of David.
I'll buy it. Which woman was Jacob's first wife? Lois, Rhoda, Mara, Leah. You have to say it that way.
Wait.
Joseph's first wife?
Jacob.
Who was Jacob's first wife?
Jacob.
Oh, this is that messed up story where the dad tricked him,
Leah.
and
right?
Leah had the like lazy eyes.
Yeah.
I don't know. The Bible describes her. It's just so unfortunate. I forget if that's the word.
There's
Yeah,
some
but
crazy stories.
she wasn't as hot as the sister.
Rachel, right?
Rachel was the
'Cause
one he wanted.
Yeah, the dad.
He married Leah for like however 30 years or something.
well, he had to
just
do
get
like
Rachel.
7 years. Of,
Gabby, doesn't this sound
he had
just
to
like
serve
So funny. It
Esau
sounds like
for
a
7
fictional
years.
book we're talking about here.
And then he thought he was getting Rachel, and the dad's like, "Swoop."
I know.
The oldest daughter that needs to go, so you get the one that's
They get
tough on
better.
guys.
You should read it.
it's savage.
Which woman was Moses and Aaron's sister? Tirzah, Elizabeth, Miriam, Damaris.
For sure, Miriam.
Yeah, Miriam. I was thinking too. Which woman bore the twins of Jacob and Esau? Rebecca, right? Rebecca, Sarah, Zipporah, and Judith. I think it's Rebecca, right?
Yeah. Wait, Jacob and Esau's mom?
Yeah.
What are the names again?
Rebecca, Sarah, Zipporah, Judith.
Rebecca for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Heck.
it's not Sarah.
See how we did. See how we did, folks.
Sarah was Isaac.
Better than 7 or worse?
Esther was correct. Queen of Persia.
Nice.
The woman who Peter raised from the dead. It was Dorcas. Should have.
Oh, gotta trust that.
The woman. Okay,
Dorcas.
Hannah was correct.
Let's go.
Bathsheba was correct.
3 for 4.
It wasn't Bernice. It was Anna. Anna.
liked
Sorry,
Anna.
Anna.
I like that
Anna. Gomer was right. Ruth was right. Leah was right. Miriam was right. Rebecca was right. We got 8 out of 10.
Bang!
We did
know
better.
our ladies. We know
Let's
our
go.
shout out ladies.
That's a B.
We did better.
We're on the president's roll.
That's so great. I love that.
Honor students.
I like that.
That's funny. So, so my notes never updated.
Some of those stories.
That's sweet.
are nuts.
So anyway, Luke,
Uh-oh.
do you think you have the best church?
Just kick it off.
That's it.
My church is the
what we're going
best.
for. I'll be right back. Just talk about it. Just talk about why do you think your church is good?
We've only been doing this for like 18 minutes. You didn't go before we started?
What? No, I have to go update my notes. I didn't update to the iPad. I'm not going to leave the office. Just watch me. So, Luke, talk about it. Why do you like your church?
Okay. Why do I like my church? I would say.
Or hang on, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Was it just the first church you went to, or did you try a couple? And like, how'd you end up there?
Okay. So I kind of touched that when I was in Europe is when I like really found God. And so when I came back, I knew people were going to this church because they were hosting it at my old high school. So like I had people I knew that were going.
Just Haggerty?
Yeah.
So you just knew that there was a church at your old high school.
Right.
That's all you knew.
That's all I knew.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
And a couple of my friends from high school went there. So they
Okay.
were like, you should come through.
For sure.
And so I did.
And so I did.
Dang.
Yeah. So kind of nuts.
And so was that like your first experience with, because I mean, you probably went to church a little growing up, but I mean, if it was like you really had that conversion experience in Europe, were you like faithfully attending like another church before that?
Growing up, I went to Northland Church. I don't know if, because you didn't grow
Okay.
up here, but
Right in Central Florida.
it's still here.
Okay.
It's massive, or at least it was.
Definitely heard the name.
And through high school, I would say, yeah, I visited several different kinds of church. But I've never been like as an adult a member at any other church. So
Planted.
Right.
Enjoy life
Planted.
in the soil of the.
my roots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason I asked that question is what I really want to get to is compare Northland to the church that you're at now.
Okay.
Like how does it differ? What do you like about it? Is there things you liked about the other church? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just off the cuff.
Well, they're similar in some ways and different in some ways. I guess they were both like non-denominational, so I guess the similarities that come under that umbrella were there. Just like big congregations, multi-site churches. Those are some similarities. Differences were I was like a child when I went to the other one, so I never really had like a community, I guess, with that church because I was a little child. And so it's kind of hard to compare that. But now that I'm an adult, like me and my wife's, I wouldn't say all, but most of our friends come from our church community. So that's a cool thing about this church we're at now.
So I guess compared to how old were you when you went there, Northland?
On and off, like through high school.
Okay, so it wasn't that far. That like when you were 5 or something.
Well, I was.
Well, I mean, like, it wasn't that? That's not when you left the church when you were like 5. So you know and you remember enough about it. So like as far as like style, theology,
Yeah, pretty similar.
pastor personality, staff, pretty similar in kind of like what they taught.
Yeah. There wasn't many major. I would say like theological. There was no differences.
So what made you go to the church you do now rather than just go back to Northland?
Good question. Well, when you stepped away, when I came home from Europe, I had been in college for 5 years, so I didn't go to church during that time. So when I came back home, I had friends going to this church because it was at my old high school. So they were like, "You should come," and so I just went, and I was like, "Yeah, my friends are here. I dig it," and so we stayed.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's good. That's good. You know, and I guess I'll get to the next point in a minute. Justin, the last church that you went to was Jesus Image, right? what would you say you liked about that? And just kind of do the same exercise. You compare that to like the one you were at before. You don't have to name it, I guess.
Yeah.
Just the one you were at before, I guess. How does it compare? What'd you like? What you didn't like?
Yeah. No, I mean, I loved Jesus Image. And the church itself had nothing to do with, like, because currently now I'm not really, I would say, super plugged in or really involved at any church. But I mean, what really separated Jesus Image for me was, and I've mentioned this in the past, but they really just didn't have any value for like impressing the guest or the visitor. And like, you know, not in a bad, and I, you know, it's not a bad thing one way or the other. It's just, they had a conviction that the goal of Sunday morning when the church gathered was to get Jesus in the room. We believe that his presence is what changed us or changes us, you know, and so the goal was, you know, it wasn't make sure we have coffee out for visitors. Like if you want coffee, you had to buy your own coffee, and it like wasn't even cheap. And like the worship would go for like an hour and a half, and you know, they didn't really have the lights or the smoke, any of that stuff. I mean, they just, maybe because I was around that other stuff so much growing up a lot, it just, and it's obviously, you know, no judgment, and it's probably just a case by case basis, but you know, they were just committed to letting like God do the work in a sense, I guess, not really trying to impress people. And I mean, I've been places where the entire goal of Sunday morning is to make sure we really reach out to guests and we have a good, you know, system to catch them, to get them plugged in, to get them involved, connected, all that stuff.
So
they
with
just
that,
didn't care. And they were just like,
right.
We just trust that God is bringing the right people. And, you know, I just saw it grow organically. When I first started going to these Sunday night services, there was like a couple hundred people in this little like Lutheran church. And within a matter of like, when I started going there to like probably a year later, they just kept having to move to different venues. They would just rent other church buildings on Sunday nights.
Right.
Because the churches wouldn't use them. And then over time it was like, we got to go find a bigger church. We got to find a bigger facility. And then over 1,000 people are showing up to this thing, coming early, lining up out of the door. Like we had to like lock the door and couldn't let people in till like 5. And for a 6 o'clock service, I mean, I never saw anything like that. You know, usually I was used to church where it's like everyone's skirting in either right on time or you got, you know, a lot of people trickling in for the, you know, first 15 minutes kind of thing. So it was just, you know, it was a very just different experience watching, you know, the way they built it, you know, not that it's better or worse. I don't know. It's just the way they did it. And it created this atmosphere where people were super excited to be there. And they also have a school. So that helps because you got, you know, 100 plus students that have to be there and have to serve. So really you don't have a strain on the church, like members, to the point where it's like, hey, you know, we want everyone to get involved because our life is meant to be a life of worship and servanthood, but like we don't need anyone to serve. So it's like, it was refreshing because it's like, you just kind of, people just get involved at their pace, and the people that wanted to get more involved and deeper, you know, have that deeper connection could, and they weren't just trying to like push it because we need all of our doors manned and, you know, make sure, I don't know. So that was my experience with there. It was just refreshing because it was just kind of, it felt like there's a lot of element of like, just trying to impress people, and, you know, we want to like look good, you know, in the eyes of man, which is, I understand why.
Yeah.
But that was the main difference, I'd say.
That's interesting too. I mean, and that's not the subject of exactly what we're talking about, but I'd never really thought about it before, and that is how a lot of people treat Sunday mornings. They treat it like a restaurant reservation. It's like, oh, you got 15 minutes to give, you know, and then like, you know, it's just as opposed to like a tailgater, like where they're passionate about the game, they get their hours early, just get ready. Yeah. And so it does prompt some questions for sure, I think. But anyway, that was my point. My point is it just the whole idea of churches competing for people. Yeah. That's really what, you know, and I went through that exercise just because like we all like compare churches. We all go in, we say, okay, I like this lobby. Oh, yeah, that's the coffee over there. How's their coffee taste? How clean are the bathrooms? Like, you know, we go in service, like, how good does it sound? You know, how long was worship? Like, how, like, we compare all these things. And we briefly touched on this stuff before. But we do this thing, and I don't even know if it's because, like, we do this because it's like chicken and the egg, to where it's like, all right, churches are now focused on trying to bring people into the door. So now we're used to, like, being catered to. So now it's like we look for that. So is that the reason, or people just, like, churches just know people and they know, like, what they want, so then they try to, like, create this consumerism type thing. Either way, it's tough because you know, years ago, me and a buddy of mine, we started this thing called Orlando Worship Collective, and it was a thing where we brought, like, musicians and people, like, and other pastors from other churches, like, to all come together and do these events. And the whole idea was to, like, just to be like, hey, we're all on the same team. We're, you know, it's all the same goal. Like, what are we doing? Like, why are we fighting this? And it's so, and you've seen it where, like, someone will leave the church or someone does something to where, like, all of a sudden, like, rumors start, like, oh, where are they? Oh, I heard they're going here now, you know? And then all of a sudden it's like that other church is like an other. It's like they're just like, okay, well, you know, we don't talk about that church, you know, because, you know, they've stolen all of our people or whatever it is. And then I've also seen, like, a healthy perspective to where pastors are like, hey, you know, this may not be the place for you. If it's not, you know, we want you to find a place so you feel like it's home. I mean, which is great. Like, you know, that's great. But at the same time, those, you know, they won't normally take that extra step and, like, be like one to work with another church on projects or anything, which is just crazy. Like, cause I know that churches got to pay their bills and they got to, like, you know, budget and do all this stuff. But to me, it just doesn't feel like there's enough synergy, you know? I mean, if you share that big of a common denominator, why is there not more? Like, why do we create this idea in our head that churches are about the brand, they're about, you know, where we meet, like the kind of the style, the, you know, whatever, social media or whatever, right? Like, just all the look and the feel. And we associate that with, like, what we call the church, almost taking it out of the realm of it being the people. And then all of a sudden we just view it as so competitive. I mean, any thoughts on that?
I think it's a good point. I think it's something like everyone should have a heart check about, for sure. Because if your goal is for your church to succeed instead of the church to succeed, then I think you're missing it. So it's a healthy check, especially people who are involved in churches heavily. I think it's a healthy check that needs to be, like, done often, because it's probably easy to get sucked into everything you're doing to try your best to build a church, and then because of that be robbed of why you're really doing it, or be doing it for the wrong reasons, maybe even unintentionally. So yeah, I think it's a good point, and I would say it's probably a good thing to always evaluate your motives and your drive to do that stuff.
What do you think the good reason is? Actually, before I go there, well, Gabby, you mentioned before that you and Rachel have talked about maybe going to church, like her going back to church because she used to go and stuff like that.
She went a couple times when she first moved down here. Yeah.
Okay. But she grew up in it, right? Like, she kind of did that. So, like, what kind of things have you talked about that you would want in, like, a kind of a faith community or whatever, right? Like, have you talked about that? Like, you know, you just wanted to feel comfortable, like, feel like you belong kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I only considered it at first just because I didn't know if that was something that she wanted to do. It's honestly not something that I care to do. I don't know. I just don't see, and maybe I just haven't found it, and I'm sure it's out there, but I don't see me being able to walk in a church, truly be who I am, and 100% be comfortable knowing that I wasn't like judged by anyone, that I was anyone else, like normal person.
Yeah.
Because that's not, because as much as you want to think that, like, that's not the first thing that someone's thinking, like when they see you or when they're getting introduced to you or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's uncomfortable for me, and I avoid uncomfortable situations. So,
Yeah. Yeah, we're alike in that regard.
I mean,
I
and
don't
it's
like
it's uncomfortable for her too. And she was, I mean, church was always something pushed onto her, and she's still very like, I wouldn't say like religious. She believes in God and everything. You know, she prays, but I don't know. I don't think it's something that's too important to her either. I think it'll definitely come up like if we ever have kids. But I don't know. I guess we'll figure that out then.
Yeah, it's one of those interesting things. Like it relates to what we talked about before, where it was like a lot of people like still believe in God, but there's less people that are interested in going to church. And it, you know, and you'd mentioned like you feel like this is your church, which
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
because the only time I ever talk about God is with you guys.
yeah, and it, I mean, and that's great. Like I don't, you know, for a lot of people, it's like meeting in the living room. I mean, a lot like it's what they do. It's like their service, you know.
Yeah, or I'll talk to God when I'm in my car and driving by myself,
Yeah.
or like whenever. Yeah, most of the time when I'm by myself. But yeah, so it's not like a thing of like I'm not religious at all, and like I don't believe in God. It's like no, I totally do. I'd want to believe in something,
Yeah.
but I don't want to be surrounded by a bunch of people that may think.
Yeah. No, that's cool. And one of the so that one of the things I thought about, and I just don't even know how to process it, but we kind of go back to like the church original, like the first Christian church, if you want to call it that, in Acts 2. We were talking about how they were very small groups, right? And
Yeah, meeting from home to home type of
we've
thing.
grown them into these big things. So when you have new people, and no church would ever say like, "Oh, I want my church to be smaller," like right, like. No church staff is saying that. But if you were to try to like get to that, like, hey, you want people to feel comfortable, intimate at home. It's just like, well, how do you think they dealt with it in the past? Like, have you heard of anything like, you know, so you
Like
have
how
new
many
people
years
come to
ago?
your group. Like say you have like a new family, they have 5 people and you already have like kind of what you'd consider a larger group that can't even fit in a house. Do you just continue to accept? Is that like how it happened? Like, how does it? Or do you say like, oh, there's this group over here?
Yeah, I mean, to me, when I like strictly going off of the Acts 2 account, I think where we get so like jumbled up today is like it's just impossible for us. Even though we'll talk about a million times how the church isn't the building, it's the people, but still, like when 99% of people think about church, their like gut reaction is like, oh, that place we go on Sunday mornings. Like it's like we just condense, which we've obviously hit on many times is really not the intention of what was laid out to be. So like when I think about it, it's like the church was really just, it was more of a people group. And so it was just like, if people kind of joined into your group and you're just hanging out like so you could have like, I don't know, let's say we're in some old town, like back in the Bible times, you could have like 200 people in your church, but on any given day, maybe like 20 of us are chilling at this guy's house, or like we get together like for this thing at this guy's house, or it's just like there's groups and you naturally you form like smaller groups, not in like a bad way, like cliques, but it's just like you just kind of naturally find your, you know, the people you really want to develop deep relationship with. And then that's why when you read the end of Acts 2, for me, it's like, it just talks about how it's like, this is just the stuff that all of us were doing every day together anyways.
Yeah.
So it's just, we didn't have to worry about trying to find a building that was big enough to fit all of us on Sunday. It was like, we're just chilling. And it's like, you know, on any given day, we could be doing anything or being anywhere. But, you know, you go down the list of, it's just, you know, we were all devoted to the teachings of the apostles. We were all, you know, it talks about praises of God were like continually on their lips. So it's just their topic of conversation. It's just, you know, it was just kind of a passion for them. So I don't know. I mean, we've just, over the years and generations, it's just turned, unfortunately, into a very
I wonder how it got that way.
experience.
I wonder who the first person or who the first people were to build a dedicated worship facility or building or whatever, you know, like monument.
I mean, it didn't take long because, like, by the time Paul's writing letters to these guys, it's like to the church in Philippi, to the church in Ephesus,
Do you think
to
that?
the church in Corinth. Like,
Yeah. Do you think
So-
that physically was like a one group of people, or do you think that just meant like the churches that are in that city, that the church meaning church
the
plural,
church of
like,
Jesus Christ, like,
Yeah, the
just
sheep,
whoever.
sheep, not sheeps.
Yeah.
Could mean
The
multiple.
sheeple. Yeah. Multiple species of sheep, though, can be sheeps.
That's just like fishes. Mm-hmm. Fishes can be fish is like plural for fish, but fishes is multiple species of fish. Mm-hmm. So fishes.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Here's a question: why isn't moose plural meese?
I've thought of that. I'm
A
pretty
goose plural is geese.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've said that before. I'm pretty
been on
sure
my
I've
brain
said
ever
meese
since.
before, probably without thinking.
Look at those meese over there.
Is it 10 moose? Just,
It's moose.
It's moose.
it's plural the same.
It might be. No, I think it's moose.
But if you said like 10 goose, I think you could probably get away with it. A lot of people I don't think would catch it.
I don't know
Plural
about that. I'm on your tail,
So
pal.
so if I
Yeah,
got
this just goes back to that conversation about how much it must suck to earn or to learn English as a second language.
It's tough.
Where
Yeah.
there's just so many stupid rules that make no sense.
That
And
aren't
it's just
consistent.
The
They're
fact
not
that we've
consistent.
spoke it for
No explanation.
almost
it's like-
30 years, we're just like, that doesn't sound right.
So my dog was out chasing 10 goose out in the backyard. I feel like you could get away with just being sly with it, you know?
I'll tell you what, you cannot get away with saying, look at
feels
those
wrong.
meese over there.
Oh, that would be weird, but
Look
I
at that
assume
group
you're
of
talking
meese.
about mice.
yeah, mice. That
Yeah,
would be like
right.
mice.
You know, have you ever done? We should do this for another opener.
Mouses.
Mouse and mice. Yeah, another one. What's that about?
I don't know.
House and heist?
Ice.
You know, dice. So dice throws me off.
Dice. That throws me off.
Dice, like
die.
a pair of dice, but
It's a pair of die.
Ten-
One is a die.
One die.
One is a die, two are dice.
Why don't you just roll the dice?
5 dice,
No, yeah, it's dice.
10 dice.
More than one is dice. Yeah, 10 dice.
Yeah, no, it blows my mind.
Yeah, the
Right?
die. I don't like that.
10 die. 4, 9. No, it's dice. Yeah,
It's
one
dice.
is die,
Roll the dice. It's 2.
which is
One is die.
Which is funny because the term die
So when you play categories, you
technically
have
means
a
2,
die.
right? Like when you put
Yeah.
die in front of something,
think that-
doesn't it mean 2?
I thought that was buy.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Die like
Bicycle.
what's the term like diametric mean?
What have you done?
Diabolical.
Yeah,
That's a Billy
this
Butcher.
Is,
I
this is a
can't
rabbit
do it.
hole we're gonna be.
Diabolical.
I love that.
What we
Think
should
of a
do
word
though,
that
for
has die. I don't think
All
there's-
these stems should be Billy Butcher.
yeah,
Diabolical.
we should open
Dude.
up one of these podcasts with. Have you ever gone through the list of like what different groups of animals are called?
Yeah,
And just guess.
gaggle.
Like a
like
gaggle
that.
of geese.
Gaggle's my favorite.
What do you call a group of like? But that's what you just go through the list.
I like
A
that.
group of like lions would be like a pride.
Pride of lions.
You know,
and then-
keep talking about this. I'll
Did you
be right
know
back.
that there? What's wolves? Wolves, I think it's like a
Pack.
No,
it
no,
might
you
not
might be right.
pack
That
of
does sound right.
wolves.
One of them is called like a tigers. Tigers. They
And
often
you're saying this is what a pack of
like a
or
group of these
an
animals is
animal?
called. Like yeah,
A school of fish.
This is
exactly.
gonna really get. It's gonna really get me.
Because there's a whole list of this. Yeah, so a group of tigers is called a streak of tigers.
Wow. That's a fun fact.
Right? Not often found in groups, but every now and then.
Group meaning more than one?
Well, because often you'll see like a tiger going solo, maybe like a mom and her cub, but it's not often for tigers to be in groups. But
You mean streaks.
in streaks?
You mean
yes.
you
Yes.
mean streaks?
Yes.
A streak of tigers.
Any other good ones? I mean, hey, we could run with this for a sec.
We're running. School of fish we just highlighted.
School, yeah, school is interesting.
It
That's
is.
kind of like one of the first weird ones you learn.
There's no other school though.
That's true.
Just
Gaggle.
with fish. Pride we
I
did.
still love gaggle.
Names for groups of animals. Okay.
What are a group of humans?
Why don't you quiz us? Give us a fill in the blank. Let me give it a shot.
Oh, here's a good one. What do you think a group of apes is called?
People.
You're never gonna get it.
Okay, go ahead.
A shrewdness. Shrewdness.
I've never heard that
Shrewdness?
word.
SHREWDNESS. A shrewdness.
I'm out, dog.
What about baboons?
How goofy.
I got nothing.
Baboodles.
A troop.
Boodles.
A troop of baboons.
Okay. Who makes this up? Why can't it just be one word?
Bass, like the fish.
It's
A
not
group
school.
of bass.
A shoal.
Yeah, these are
SHOAL.
Why can't it be a school? Okay.
All right, we'll try to find some easier
That's-
ones.
I don't understand. Like
Bees. How about a bees?
a hive.
You're on the right track.
Swarm?
Yes.
Yeah, come on.
Nice.
Okay. All right. I mean, that's pretty. I feel like people
I could
would
get
know
there.
that.
Yeah.
Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Okay, here's a
What was that? Is that a hint?
Start with a B.
hint. It's a 2-word phrase. That's the same word said twice. That's for like my homies.
Bro.
Gang.
Oh,
No,
A
it's
gang.
Gang, gang.
Oh, really?
A
Squad.
gang of buffalo.
I've never called my homies a gang.
You
know
never
where
just
that
like
came
dab
from.
someone up. Gang, gang.
Give it the time.
I've never done that. I'm sorry. That's
Yeah,
not Gen.
figure it
That
out.
wasn't on the Gen Z list.
I'll pay you $5 to go do that to Lincoln right now.
I missed that list. No, him and I are. There's a lot of friction there right now.
Gang.
That's awesome. Oh, cheetahs. This is dope.
Okay.
Cheetos.
Bag.
There's no good hint. A coalition.
Oh, what?
Coalition.
Wow.
That's
Pretty cool.
Cobras. This is cool.
Group of cheetahs sounds like it's less syllables. I don't know.
Coalition.
Cobras.
Cobras.
Is that
You put arrows in a
target?
before you pull them out of the
Oh,
Quiver.
man.
yeah
Quiver.
a quiver of cobras. I wonder if some of these they just purely wanted alliteration.
Yeah, it seems that way.
'Cause it's like a quiver is not even like it's what holds the arrows.
Like,
It's not
let's
even
be,
like
poetic. Like you could use the term pack for most of these. A pack of cobras.
ooh, what about crows? A murder of crows.
That,
Oh, I
that
think I
makes
knew
sense.
that.
That
I think I
makes
knew that
sense.
one.
Crows are evil.
Crows are crazy. You ever see the movie The Birds?
I don't think I will.
Or it's called Birds.
Oh, like Hancock,
Alfred,
like
Alfred Hitchcock.
Hitchcock.
Yeah, it was like a horror movie.
Herbie
all the birds
Hancock.
all the birds started attacking people.
A crow took a bag of chips off my golf cart last weekend.
That's not the same thing what I'm talking about.
Oh, really?
Vultures is
Evil.
a
How dare
venue.
he? A venue?
Venue of vultures.
This is getting ridiculous.
Those things are also evil.
Ooh, wombats.
Yeah.
Wombat.
A wisdom of wombats.
I'm out.
That's just
all.
dumb.
That's
Okay.
not even.
It's not wise.
Zebras. A zeal of zebras.
All right, put that away.
They're just going straight like alliteration.
Let's put that away.
I'm out, dog.
I'm out, dog.
All right, that
A
was good.
fever of stingrays.
Okay, we're done. Justin, we're done.
A mustering of storks.
Okay. Just want
They get more ridiculous.
just want to get a few more out.
All right, yeah.
He's going to start the next podcast with, hey, there was just a couple more I wanted to say.
A shiver of sharks.
Okay. So
Stench of skunks. Sorry, that was the last one. I promise.
that makes sense though.
Is it though?
It does make sense.
So say what do you think a good reason is to leave a church? Say like something happened, right? Like, you know, what I've seen the most ridiculous reasons like people give for leaving a church, right?
Example,
Like to get
please.
butthurt.
Example, we just moved and church is 5 minutes further away. That's one of the biggest dumb reasons. Okay.
Yeah.
Another one is the pastor said something I don't agree with. I think that's dumb.
I guess it depends what he
Depends
said.
on what he said. Yeah.
Okay, well, if he like said something racist, I mean, okay, that's
Yeah, that's a big umbrella
that's
right
a
there.
big one. But what I'm saying, like, he just like didn't like represent something the right way, or he said something in the moment. People will get hung
Gotcha.
up on, right? Like stupid things, right? I've heard people say that like, you know, they're like charging for the coffee now, and then like that was like the last straw for them.
no.
I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, so anyway, what would you say is like a reason that is valid? So because we talk about this, like it's almost like we're considered consumers. We've got all these options.
Yeah.
Right. Like say, pretend you had a girlfriend and they were like, kind of like pissing you off, right? And you're just like, all right, I got all these other options, right?
Easy.
So it's almost like that with churches, right? To where like, oh, you have these options, like you've
Yeah.
heard some great things about this other church across town.
You can basically play Tinder with churches.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is like, we shouldn't do that.
I agree.
But what is like for you personally, and this doesn't like have to be like, you know, the standard, but what I'm saying is like, what do you personally think would be a reason that you would leave a church? Like that
would be okay.
It would be good enough. Yeah. Not a superficial, one of these superficial reasons. Cause I had friends that would church hop growing up, right? They would just be like, it's almost like they're just looking for the pastor, someone to slip up.
They
right?
call it church shopping.
Yeah. I mean, well, or it's like they decided to go somewhere, but then like they're just like always on the lookout to be offended or something.
Yeah, dude.
Right.
That's yeah.
You know,
Well,
people
it's
like
tough
that.
too. Like think about like big
Yeah.
churches. Like I mean, imagine being in.
too obvious. Yeah. Dude.
Imagine being in like a place like Charlotte, where like you've got a church like Elevation, and it's just like, dude, they're just like, you know, they're like talk of town. They're just like well known. Like a lot of people probably want to go just because they're like, oh, I listen to their music. I have their album.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's, I guess, total side note. There's obviously not many of those, but I think the only reason really ever should be to either stay or leave a church is really just when it, to me, it breaks down to just connection. It's like if you have deep connection that with people you really want to like invest your time and life with and into, I think that's a place to stay. I think if you don't have that, I think you owe it to yourself to find that if that's something that's valuable to you. I mean,
I think that's a good
I've said it
answer.
a million times, but it's like, I think ultimately the Christian life needs to become like a personal conviction and responsibility where it's like, even if your pastor comes out and says something ridiculous, it's like, oh, I'm going to hold back on judgment and try to like understand where he's coming from and just like, and if this is where my people are and this is where I'm investing my life, like whatever. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just not even, I don't think there's anything that a pastor could say or do if I was really invested in a church in the sense of like, that's where my people were, like my tribe. I don't think there's anything a pastor could do that would make me leave.
Yeah. And
That's a good answer.
it too, it's like, well, I think the more that pastor, like we talked about before, when we talked about idolizing pastors, it's like people will not talk about their weaknesses enough. Mm-hmm. It makes people think that, okay, so you're implying perfection or, you know, over righteous
Well, and look at what
pastor
we do with
person.
social media.
And then they
It's just
say
highlight
something,
reels.
they say something weird, right? And you're just like, I think that's a more opportunity for people to get turned away than it is for like, hey, sometimes I'm up here saying stuff. Like you said, Tony Robbins example, right? I'm in the moment, maybe say the wrong thing, but like my track record speaks for itself. Like you know where I stand.
One of the Q&As our pastor had one day, someone asked something like this, and he was responding, and he said, if I gave you a mic every week for 30 minutes, you'd say some stupid stuff too. And I was like, that's
right.
so true. Everyone would.
100%.
We say some stupid stuff.
It's like the
100%.
couch. I call it couch defense when you're watching like
Right.
the NBA.
Or the Monday morning
Someone gets
quarterback,
scored
yeah.
on, you're like, oh, come on. And you're just
Exactly.
like eating your bag of chips.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Just
bro,
like-
all right.
Yeah, you wouldn't have blocked that shot
You
in
wouldn't
100
have
years.
done. Yeah, that was LeBron James. Okay.
In an Iron Man suit, you still couldn't have done it.
Yeah, have a seat, Steve.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Anyways, that's good.
Yeah.
Pop open another cola.
Yeah, because it, you know, so how do you feel about people? So like someone leaves a church, goes to another church, and they take people with them. You've seen that happen, right? Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on that? Like, is that okay? Just to be like, all right, I'm just loyal to this person, and they were hurt, so I'm going with them.
I think,
Or do you think that really? Because partly, I could see sometimes where people come from, but then I think that just kind of destroys the integrity of like the church,
Yeah.
like right, like it's just kind of like, all right, well, this whole chunk of people is just leaving.
I think
Yeah.
it would come down to the reason you're making a decision. Is it because you're just following your friend just because they got hurt?
And you're trying to get back at who hurt them.
Yeah, to me, all of that is superficial and
Yeah.
not deep rooted. So
yeah, and I would,
that seems like middle school.
If that was like the person in the church you do life with, I get that. Usually, like when you go to a church, especially if you have like kids or you're married or whatever, and your like significant other has friends as well, and you have like other connections, one person leaving isn't usually going to do it, right? But But yeah, it's funny because it's almost like churches are always like on the prowl and ready to pounce on people in that position. Like it's always like that's the reason they do the car magnets and all the billboards and all the like. We want this to be front and center. So when you're looking at changing churches, you know, like I mean, isn't that the way it feels sometimes?
Well, dude, the Bible college I went to, I remember we had a guy that was his whole job was retention. Like, how do we make sure they don't leave the school and finish their degree somewhere else? It's just like if this is the spiritual life and we're trusting people to hear and be led by God, like I personally think about it in the sense of like if I was, I guess, in leadership and someone's leaving and they're trying to get a bunch of people to leave with them, like you can't control people, but there's also too like an element where I forget what the quote is, but it's basically like if your distance doesn't mean anything to them, then like or the lack of I'm gonna butcher it, whatever, forget it. But it basically was in the sense of like your presence really never meant anything to them because it's like end of the day, it's like we don't go chasing people. I mean, we might want to, but I think like if someone's leaving because someone else is leaving too, I'm just like, dude, they were never really here to begin with.
Yeah.
You know, so
they just always saw it as a temporary.
We maybe
stop.
like the illusion of more butts in the seats and we have people here, but it's like if people are ready to go, it's like I don't think anything good can happen from you trying to convince them not to.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it would be appropriate to ask them why they're leaving without like trying to convince anyone? Just like, hey, what's your reasoning?
Can you fill out this questionnaire? How'd we do?
Right. Well, like, what do you? Yeah. What happened?
I mean, I guess if I had to go to them to get that information, I don't know. I guess in a perfect world, I feel like there should be a deep enough level of connection where it's just like someone, they're just like, oh yeah, they weren't really all in or something. I guess. I mean, yeah, sure. It can't hurt to ask, but I think end of the day, because I guess the only reason I probably wouldn't care to ask them is just like, what are you going to do with that information? So then are we now going to tailor Sunday mornings based off of this person's feedback and try to make it more inviting or make them feel more involved?
Well, what if the information was like a super like, oh, well, I'm just leaving because they're leaving. Mm-hmm. How would you, like if you were their pastor, what would you say to that?
I guess it depends on how close the relationship is, but in those situations, I'm just big on like kind of letting people figure it out for themselves. But I don't know. If they're going to go to a different church, I mean, I don't know. I guess the best thing for me, in my opinion, the best thing you can do is just send them with your love and like support.
Yeah,
because they could just go to another church and then just be another salty. I mean,
well, people who usually leave for those reasons usually do end up going,
and they'll hop around,
churches,
and they're kind of like a little toxic.
They're known for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason we bring this up is just, it's really a heart check for anyone listening. It's just, I mean, have you thought about leaving your church and what are the reasonings? And it's like, are you attracted to the shiny penny? Because there's some people too, which I mean, it's probably a great church, but Elevation has a church in Orlando. That's kind of like shiny penny for some people.
Think about young kids. Like young people, like certain churches like Instagram real well. Certain churches do not.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, there's always jokes about like, okay, this is like the young adult hookup. Every Thursday night or whatever,
I would always hear from people like Celebration Downtown was like the spot for like young single Christians, and I was just like, spot for what?
Yeah.
What does that even mean? Like,
you know what it means. Yeah.
2 months, everyone's married.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. No, and because I've seen churches actually, I stuttered a lot there. Sorry. I've seen churches. Gabby looked at me like, what are you trying to say? I've seen churches poach talent from other churches.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That's irritating. Because I'm on the worship team side of it, right? So I see because people like a good, like, diva singer. You know
That's
what I'm saying?
dude. That's a
And
whole
so-
different conversation.
And yeah,
just like
I hate that.
because we grew up where if you need a youth pastor or you need a worship pastor in your church, like we wouldn't really go outside the fellowship or denomination. Like we would always, send some feelers out there, look for some resumes within like the AG,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Keep the gene pool shallow.
So like our youth pastor, we brought him in from I think like somewhere in Missouri, and it was like I don't know exactly how the connection was made, but it's like, for me personally, and one of the coolest things that I saw at Jesus Image was the way that it was being built, like. Because you're bringing in someone from the outside that has a whole world of conditioning and then a whole different model of like ministry from
Yeah.
whatever school they went to,
especially
whatever
to somewhere
college.
like the AG.
Yeah, and then you have
all of a sudden it's like, hey, I know there's the Bible, but here's our fundamental truths. We just need you to follow these.
16
as well.
of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
more truths than commandments. But I think it's super healthy when you can build something organically, and then if you need like well, first of all, like this was really refreshing when I was at Jesus Image. It was just like people are like, when are you going to start like a kids ministry? Because they would just meet and thousands of people would come, and people just have to keep their kids in the main sanctuary. And they're like, when are you going to start a kids ministry? And he was just like, when the Lord raises up a kids pastor. We're not worried about this stuff.
Well, it's funny because it's the same
And then
thing.
it would happen.
It's the same
and then
thing.
you get
'cause it's-
someone that comes from so they already have the DNA of the house. So you don't have to worry about like someone coming in from the outside, assimilating, coming in with their own biases or preferences. And then you've got, lead pastors trying to do something one way. And then you've got, it's like any job, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And
by the time,
you
like
look at the hunger and desire there is for people to attend that service or that church, right? Like you would hope more churches would just take notes. Like, what are you doing? Like, you don't have a kids ministry. Like, that probably makes a lot of people mad. Like, how do you prevent that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could see all the churches like doing their committee meetings to like figure out like how do they do this. But when you look at it, there's such a desire to go there that it's just like you almost have to ask yourself the question: if my church didn't have kids ministry, would it be important enough to me to pay for a babysitter for my kids so that I could go to church? Right? It's just like, and if the answer is yes, then you're probably in the right place. If the answer is no, then it's like, well, am I going? Just so someone can watch my kids and so I get a break. Because that's why some people go. Because they want a break from watching their kids for a couple hours and they just want to chill and relax and talk to other people their age. So, that's just something you gotta be careful of, I guess. Like, because it's easy to fall in that mindset, especially as a parent, and then you kind of lose the reason you're actually going to church, and sometimes you just gotta reset.
Dude, I just remember growing up, like getting to church, I had a really good experience growing. My dad planted a church like when I was 3 months old, and it just naturally attracted a lot of young families with similar like kids in a similar age range, right? But like, it's funny because like we even have these phrases like, put on your Sunday best and da 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 da, and it's just like I can just remember like on any given Sunday, it's just like someone's not happy and like someone's coming in there just heated because like this one kid was refusing to wear his like one outfit that we got for him for church, and it just ruined the whole morning, and it was just like absolute chaos and madness.
Someone
like
was
trying to
wearing-
get ready.
Or this like whispers, someone's wearing jeans in the lobby.
Or like if the dad would have to get there early to help with something, and then the mom was left by herself to get all the kids ready, and then it's just this big stressful thing, and you're just like,
you hear stories
Why do we do
all
this?
the time, dude. You hear stories all the time about like arguments in the car, and then they get to church and they just put the smile on.
yeah, they're just like none of this happened. If
Oh,
you
we're
say
just
anything,
such a loving family.
you're grounded for a week.
Yeah, no,
Absolutely.
it's hilarious. Yeah,
There
no,
was one time Sydney and I got in an argument on the way to church, like a pretty decent argument. I should say a growth opportunity.
was it about a TV show or?
It was about something even worse. By worse, I mean dumber. Anyways, we get there and we're sitting in the car about to walk into church, and we're just mad.
Fuming.
Yeah, like, we're just angry. And she's like, "Are we just gonna go in there and just act like everything's okay?" I'm like, "No. Like, let's hang out for 5 minutes." And we just sat in the car. And then I walked inside, and the first person I saw is one of my best friends at the church. And I'm like, he's like, "Hey, dude, how's it going?" I'm like, "This morning sucked." And it just like, I don't know. Like, it was a good example for me to realize I'm probably in the right place because I didn't
No.
have to walk in
were-
and be like,
Put the
Good morning.
put the
Well, you
mask on.
demonstrated the authenticity.
I walked in and I'm like, no, yeah, we're mad. And I wanted to bash my head into a wall this morning. So
Yeah, I know. I don't give off the like talk to me vibes, but I just hate it. I just hate it when. I just hate it when I go into church, dude.
Just
And it's
keep
just
the
like
in-ears
because
in
the
24/7.
well, no, when I'm serving, it's easy to like just act like I'm on my way to somewhere.
Yeah.
Always, I'm be like,
Hey.
hey, what's up? I just gotta
service.
gotta get to the green room. You know, we're praying. So it's like,
We're gonna enter the throne room real quick.
but like it's like what I can't stand is like when I'm basically because Christina works, so like I'm sitting there, you know, I've got like the kids or I have Lincoln or something. This happened a couple weeks ago, but I never look like I always look like it's my first time in church because I'm wearing shorts. I'm wearing like just this is what I wear casual clothes.
Yeah.
And then I have
love that.
tattoos. You know what I mean? I have the hat on. Like it just doesn't feel like there's a lot of people around me that are like dressed better, right?
Sure.
And so I always like people are always trying to like that don't know me, like because I'm on the back line, people don't always see me on stage. A lot of people don't know me, and so they're always like trying to like witness to me almost. You know, this is like this one guy a
it
couple
fun?
weeks ago was trying to like start small talk with me because he saw my son there. He's like, "So is your son into water sports?" Like, dude, I don't know where it came from. I'm like, what makes you like something about the way he looks
And you're just
makes
like,
you think he's into
"This
water
is
sports?
not worth
What an
it."
interesting
I'm
conversation
just
worth
like
having.
I kind of felt like a dick, but I was just like I kind of blew him off a little bit. Like I answered, but it was like one of those answers where it was like, you know, when someone likes your text message, it means like they want to stop talking.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
how do I end this conversation?
Yeah,
without
right. It's just like,
completely ignoring them.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
it's just like that's how it felt to me, and it's just like that's happened before. That's the freshest one in my memory.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, all right, people. Like, I mean, and I get like, okay, I kind of get their heart, but I'm just.
I think the hardest part about church, well, let me say it like this. Going to church fights, there's like a fight between like human nature, human patterns of like, this is what church is, this is what church does. And the fight is pulling ourselves out of human nature into like the actual reality of what church is supposed to be. And I think no matter where you go to church, there's always going to be that within the congregation. Some people that are always like, you know, freaking out about churchy things. There's a mix of people who are there for the right reasons and wrong reasons. And in a weird way, that is the church, right? So it's like, there's definitely no such thing as a perfect church.
Right.
And it's frustrating and encouraging and discouraging and all of the things. But it's like, that's what human beings are. So it's
Yeah.
all the things in my
No,
opinion.
that's good. Yeah, and yeah, so we're over an hour, and Gabby and Justin need to go break the disc golf course record at UCF.
That is right.
So to summarize,
Coming for the pro tour,
keep
your eyes out.
Stop being competitive.
Just chill.
We're all in it for the same thing.
unless it's disc golf, then compete.
Check your heart. See if you're going to church for the right reasons, and when you're there, be authentic. Don't try to hide stuff.
And break up the
Amen.
kneecaps every now and then.
Amen.
You know?
Break some kneecaps. That's the last thing we'll say.
Not break the kneecaps, break out some kneecaps. You know, show some thighs. Wear those shorts.
Oh, I see.
Some thighs.
Just all right.
Bust out that 5-inch inseam
what we're
and
gonna
just
end it with.
release the
Nick-
quads, baby.
All right, Nick's the breaking kneecaps. We didn't mean that. That wasn't.
Or
that
break some
wasn't a thing.
kneecaps. In the Holy Ghost. You can just say anything followed by in the Holy Ghost.
In the
and you
Holy
probably-
Ghost.
You probably get away with it.
Oh, that's funny. All right.
Scalp some heads in the Holy Ghost.
Anyway, thanks for everyone who's listening to this. Adios.
I do it after the end of every episode.